Yo guys, welcome to the Zelda fiction. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto got harem with Fem Orochimaru, Fem Gaara and Fem Kabuto. Part 2. If you end up liking this video, please consider subscribe, so without further ado, let's get into the video. Naruto laid panting on his bed, trying to catch his breath after the amazing time he had just shared with both Sakura and Orika. The three of them were sweaty. Damn. That was wonderful. Naruto said, chuckling afterwards. I don't think I've ever been so exhausted. Sakura smirked at him and said, it was just as I had hoped. That was amazing Naruto-kun. She soon smirked at Orika and said, and you. I'd love to feel that again. Orika giggled and said, that's just one of the many things I can grant to you and Naruto-kun once you've joined me. Aside from all the power I'll grant you both, I mean. Before they could say any more, the purple-haired Anbu that had been standing guard outside entered the room, catching Naruto and Sakura off guard. Removing her mask, she looked straight into Orika's eyes and said, Orika-sama, sorry to disturb you like this, but it's important. Naruto and Sakura's brows quirked up in curiosity as they looked between the Anbu and Orika. Okay, somebody's going to have to explain this to me. Naruto said. Orika sat up, the blanket dropping for all to see. What is it Yugao? I was comfortable. Yugao bowed apologetically before saying, a mob has formed and is on their way here as we speak. It would seem word has spread about Sasuke-kun's death and the people are blaming Naruto-kun. I think we all know why that's the case. Orika scowled and asked, they dare to attack my Naruto-kun over that brat's death tch, of course they would. I'm willing to bet Hiruzen let it slip that Sasuke died in the Chunin Exams while Naruto-kun survived the encounter with the big bad Orika. Of course they'd pin the blame on Naruto-kun. Thanks for the warning Yugao. Return to your post. Sighing softly, Orika kissed Naruto before she climbed out of bed and redressed. Afterwards, she bade him goodbye and left. Naruto and Sakura groaned as they laid back on the bed. Tucking hell. Damn that old bastard. Damn the people of this village. Naruto said irritably. Sakura sighed and got out of the bed, putting her clothes back on and handing Naruto his clothing as well. I had hoped we'd have more time together. I didn't expect the people to mount an attack on you now that you're a shinobi of the village. Of course they'd do this. The old bastard manipulated them into thinking I'm at fault for Sasuke's death. The weapon needs to be kept under control, and the weapon needs to know that there's only one person that will look after him every time something like this happens. I tortured Kiba in the prelims, and I've been acting differently from how he's been trying to condition me. I'm clearly getting out of hand, and I need to be reminded of my place in the world. Grumbling again, Naruto got up and got dressed. We'll have to talk to Yugao later, see what the deal is with her and Orika. Though if I had to guess, I'd say she's another of Orika-chan's agents in the village. An agent in the Anbu? Orika-sama's got some serious connections, doesn't she? Regardless, we need to get out of here. Is there someplace safe we can go to for the time being? Sakura questioned, clearly worried about what could happen. Naruto shook his head and said, no. We're not running. If I revert to my old ways of running and hiding from the people of this village, it'll just raise more suspicion. I'm willing to bet he wants me to fight back this time. So I'm going to try something he likely won't expect. I'm going to be honest with the people and try to convince them to leave me alone using the peaceful option. Sakura frowned and asked, isn't that a bit dangerous? They've never listened to you before. True. But it's better than doing what the old bastard wants. If they attack me, then they attack me. I want you to sneak out through the window and flee. I don't want you getting involved in this. Naruto suggested. The Pincat frowned and asked, are you sure? Shouldn't I stay and help? Naruto shook his head and said, no offense, Sakura-chan, but you haven't exactly kept up with your training. I know you're planning to take things much more seriously from now on, and I'm happy for that. The problem here is the fact that these monsters will try to hurt you, and I don't want to give away too much of what I'm really capable of. If worse comes to worst and they don't listen, I'll have to let them beat me to a pulp. I won't let them kill me, but I'll have to accept their beating. Sakura's eyes widened for a time and she wanted to protest vehemently, but the more that she thought about it, the more she realized that he was right. Hugging him tight, she gave him a light kiss on the lips and said, I love you. Be safe, Naruto-kun. And with that, she leapt out the back window and hurried away. Blushing a bit at the confession, he soon shook it off and stepped outside. Walking down the stairs, he looked at the mob as they came into view. What do you want this time? What could I have possibly done to you this time? The woman at the front of the mob glared at him and shouted, you're the reason Sasuke-kun is dead. You took him away from us. He was meant for greatness. It should have been you Orika killed. I bet you didn't even try to save Sasuke-kun, did you? Assuming, Naruto soon looked the woman in her eyes before staring at the others one by one. I'm assuming you missed a detail where I was attacked as well. We were separated in the forest of death and I fell under attack. When I finally caught up to my teammates, it was too late. Orika had attacked Sasuke and Sakura, and there was literally nothing I could have done. I did what I could. Sakura and I got the scrolls we needed and rushed with Sasuke to the tower. We made sure that Iruka-sensei got Sasuke the help he needed. It was too damn late though. We did everything we could and it still wasn't enough. So for what it's worth, I'm sorry. It was a bad situation and I wish things had gone differently, but there's literally nothing I can do now, and there was nothing I could have done then to set things right. Sighing softly, Naruto asked, do you really want to attack a shinobi of Konoha? I tried, damn it. Do you really think I wanted Sasuke to die? We didn't get along, I know that. But for Tuck's sake, he was my teammate. Even if I didn't like the guy, I would have done everything possible to keep that jerk safe. After all, those who break the rules are trash, but those who abandon their comrades are worse than trash. That's what we were taught, and I took those words to heart. So I am sorry. There was nothing I could have done. If I had been there, you can believe me when I say that I would have fought hard as hell to keep him safe. If that's not good enough for you people, then what the hell could I possibly say or do to make you believe I meant him no harm? Do I need to let you beat the out of me again until you're pleased with yourselves? The man stepped forward and looked hard into Naruto's eyes, almost as if he was searching for the truth in them. You really mean that? Naruto nodded once and said, yes. I tried to save Sasuke's life. We got him to the tower as fast as we could. It wasn't enough though. The man frowned and slowly turned around, walking back to the mob. Let's go. I believe him. Half of the mob nodded in agreement and proceeded to leave. However, the other half, including the woman who had spoken up before, glared at Naruto and began to move in closer. It still should have been you that died in there, demon. Naruto sighed and closed his eyes, waiting for the inevitable beating. However, when it didn't come, he opened his eyes and saw a number of Anbu had surrounded what remained of the rather large mob. When the third Hokage appeared at his side, Naruto quirked a brow and asked, what are you doing here, Gramps? I was resigned to just taking another beating. The third Hokage frowned at Naruto and asked, why didn't you opt to fight back? I know you have the strength to handle yourself in a situation such as this. The blonde shrugged and said, what would fighting back accomplish? It would only prove them right about me. I'm not a heartless, soulless monster, Gramps. I've just been through far too much and I can't handle it all anymore. I spoke the truth though. If I could have saved Sasuke, I would have. He was a teammate. Did I laugh when he died? Yes. Am I ashamed of it? Nope. Sasuke was in a hole that treated everyone like. Sure, I'm glad he's gone. But at the same time, I took those words to heart. I got Sasuke to the tower as fast as I possibly could have. I did what I could to try and save him. It just wasn't enough. I see. I'll admit, your behavior had me worried. But seeing how you handled this situation is relieving, Naruto-kun. I'm glad to see you haven't changed as much as I thought you had. Tell me, do you have anyone to help you train for the finals? Chances are good that you'll end up fighting some strong opponents in the finals, and it wouldn't do to enter those matches unprepared. Hiruzen said. Naruto frowned and shook his head. You already know I can't count on Kakashi. And if I receive any training from someone, I'd like for them to train Sakura-chan too. She was neglected by Kakashi too, and she's currently one of the weakest amongst my graduating class. She wants to get stronger, so whoever takes over my training has to agree to train her too, or else it's a no-go. I'd rather train just the two of us together than let somebody neglect either of us again. Hiruzen frowned in thought for a time before saying, that's a bit of a problem. I was going to have Jiraiya take you for training. I don't know if he'd be interested in training Sakura-chan. I'll try talking to him. If he refuses, I'll try to find somebody that will train you both. For now, do you think you got all of that pent-up frustration out of your system? Raising a brow in curiosity, Naruto said, maybe. I finally had Fex, so I'm feeling great for the most part. Just wish I didn't have to deal with another damn mob being a pain in the A, otherwise I probably could have gone another 3 or 4 rounds. Not sure if Sakura-chan could have handled all of that though. Despite himself, a trickle of blood leaked out of Hiruzen's nose and he found himself giggling pervertedly before he could stop himself. Seeing this, Naruto facepalmed and said, mind out of the gutter, old man. That's my girl you're imagining. Quickly shaking himself out of his fantasies, Hiruzen nodded in understanding. So it is. Well, I'm glad you're feeling better, Naruto-kun. I need to get back to my office, so why don't you go do whatever you had planned for the rest of the day, okay? I'll talk to Jiraiya and see if he'll be willing to train you both. If not, I'll try to see if anyone else is available to teach you. Before he could say anything more, Yuga appeared, kneeling to the Hokage. Hokage-sama, if it's not too much trouble, perhaps you could allow me to train the both of them. Jiraiya-sama might mean well, but his perversions tend to get in the way more than half of the time. He'd rather peep on women in the hot springs than focus on a potential student. You know this. Hiruzen frowned slightly as he looked at Yugao. Strange. Why would Yugao be volunteering to teach a couple of genin? Though, she does have a point. Sighing softly, he said, you have a point. Remove your mask and introduce yourself to your new students properly. While you are training them, you are not Anbukat. You are Yugao Yuzuki, Sensei to Naruto Uzumaki and Sakura Haruno. Actually, wait, looking around, Hiruzen blinked a couple of times and asked, Naruto-kun. Where is Sakura anyways? Naruto quirked a brow and asked, just now noticing she's not here. Chuckling, the blonde shook his head and said, I had her sneak out the back so she wouldn't be attacked by the mob. I'm not sure where she is now. The Hokage nodded in understanding. Alright then. Yugao, I suggest you get started on a lesson plan for your new students. Naruto-kun, I'll call for you and Sakura tomorrow morning so Yugao can take you for training. Do tell me something, Yugao, where will this training of yours take place? Yugao smirked at the Hokage and said, the Forest of Death. It's the perfect place to improve a person's skills at an exceptionally large pace. I must ask that you not send anyone in looking for us, however. I'm planning to really put them through the ringer and I don't want anyone to disturb us. Sakura is a fangirl, or she was, at any rate. She needs a lot of work. And Naruto-kun. I need to determine his skill level, learn what he's really capable of, and build on him from there. All I ask is that you trust me to turn them into incredible shinobi of Konohagakure. Please, sir. Despite his suspicions in this moment, Hiruzen nodded and said, I trust you, Yugao. If you feel this is what's best for Naruto-kun and Sakura, then I'll do as you ask. Just remember to make sure the two of them make it to the finals on time. The purple-haired Anbu frowned as she looked into Hiruzen's eyes. I'm not Kakashi, Hokage-sama. Have I ever arrived late before? The Hokage smiled and said, you're right. You've always been very punctual and precise about everything. You're one of the best Anbu in the village, if not the best. Very well, I'll entrust their safety and training to you, Yugao. Just make sure they're strong enough to handle themselves and anything anyone could throw at them. Naruto-kun, be at the Forest of Death at 8 a.m. I'll send instructions to Sakura to meet you there at that time as well. Yugao, don't let me down. And with that, the Hokage left to return to his office. As soon as he was gone, Naruto smirked at Yugao and said, well, aren't you the clever one? You've just ensured Sakura-chan and I can get out of here a lot quicker than anticipated. It would be quite some time before he realized the two of us were gone. What are you going to do though? Will you come with us? The purple-haired Kunoichi frowned and said, it depends on what Orika-sama wants, Naruto-kun. If she wants me to stay here, then I'll stay here. I'll pretend to be Hate's kind, loving girlfriend for a while longer if I need to be. In truth, I can't stand that guy. But he makes for a good cover story. Shrugging her shoulders, Yugao smirked at Naruto and said, I saw you, you know. Seems like you were having a lot of fun with Orika-sama and Sakura. Despite being a virgin, you sure seemed to know what you were doing. Blushing badly, Naruto muttered, pervert. Giggling a bit, Yugao patted him atop his head and said, get some rest, Naruto-kun. I'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning. Don't be late. Yugao said before she vanished via Shunshin. Left on his own, Naruto prepared to re-enter his apartment, only to frown as he sensed someone watching him. Scowling at this, he said, whoever's there, you can come out now. I won't hurt you. Hearing an eep. Coming from around the corner, Naruto's brow quirked upwards and he walked over to the hidden person, stumbling upon Hinata Hyuga. Looking her over carefully, he asked, you're already out of the hospital. You took quite the beating. Are you sure you're okay? Hinata blushed prettily and nodded slowly. They said I'm alright now. Aye. Naruto sighed and massaged his forehead tiredly. Let me guess, you saw and heard all of that, didn't you? The gorgeous young woman nodded and said, yes. I watched you. Having sex, I mean. I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't have, and I probably should have said something, but. Sighing softly, Naruto took Hinata by the hand and led her inside of his apartment. Sitting her down on his couch, he sat beside her and placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. Ask me what you really want to ask me, Hinata-chan. Are you really planning to leave Konoha with Orika? Hinata questioned. Naruto sighed and nodded his head affirmatively. Yes. You know what my life has been like here in Konoha, Hinata-chan. I know you've been watching me every now and then. I'm sure you're already well aware that I'm the Jinchuriki of the Kyubi no Yoko as well, hence why I'm so hated here. That old bastard, the Hokage, has been trying to manipulate me into being his perfect loyal little lapdog that will do everything he tells me to because I'd be too stupid to realize he was only using me. Did you know he never once told me who my parents are? Or even if I was loved and wanted? Hearing her gasp, Naruto nodded and said, yep. Anyways, yes, I'm leaving with Orika-chan. Hopefully sooner rather than later. I see. And Sakura too. Before now, she was always so mean to you. What changed? Hinata asked, clearly upset at the moment. Naruto frowned and lightly flicked Hinata in the forehead, earning a meep sound from her, much to his amusement. Just like I did with you, I rescued Sakura-chan from bullies when we were younger. Her parents convinced her I was evil though, and she kind of fell in with the whole Sasuke crowd later on and yeah. You get the picture. Anyways, in the Forest of Death, I kinda said tuck it and told her to go ahead and take Sasuke for a ride while he was unconscious. Did you know he was impotent? He couldn't get it up. Sure as hell caught me by surprise, though it's not entirely unexpected. I mean, if he could have, you know what, I'm not even going to go there. Talking about his junk is already making me feel icky. Despite herself, Hinata giggled and said, I think that's enough to make anyone feel disgusted, Naruto-kun. Chuckling, Naruto nodded his agreement. Anyways, once Sakura realized that she'd never have any way to start an actual family with Sasuke, she and I got to talking. Seems she did remember me saving her from bullies after all. We just talked for a while, and one thing kinda led to another, and somehow we were all over each other. We didn't have sex though, but damn did we want to. I'm telling you, chapter 1 of this story should have been called Blue Ball Syndrome for sure with how often I was beat-blocked by one thing or another. Hinata blinked a couple of times and asked, huh? Never mind. Naruto said, shaking that thought off. Anyways, I convinced Orika-chan to bring Sakura-chan with us. And you know what happened after we got back from the prelims. Suo, what do you plan to do now that you know all of this? The Gaara frowned and thought it over for a while. Weighing her options, she soon looked into Naruto's eyes and said, take me with you. Naruto blinked and asked, why exactly? Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying no, I'm just wondering. Hinata pouted cutely at him and said, I love you, Naruto-kun. I have for the longest time. My family treats me horribly. My father's an abusive, my little sister takes after him in pretty much every way, and my own cousin, Niji, treats me like I'm trash. He blames me for what happened to his father, my uncle Hisashi. Kumo's the one to blame, not me. But no, he needed an easy target to place the blame on, and he chose me. I was only 3 years old at the time. I couldn't have possibly fought off my kidnapper. Taking a moment to breathe in and out calmly, Hinata said, the rest of my clan is no better. The main branch Ugas, especially the elders of the clan, are that gladly abuse the curse seal on the branch house. And, because I'm the clan head's daughter, the branch house Ugas treat me as if I'm a criminal too. I just can't win in that clan. When we were younger, bullies wanted to tear out my eyes and beat me up because I was different from them. You saved me. Naruto-kun, there is literally nowhere else in the world that I would rather be than at your side. You're my reason for living. I need to be with you. If you leave without me I died. Naruto frowned and asked, you'd end your life wouldn't you? Seeing her nod, he hugged her close and said, okay. I'll talk to Orika-chan about extracting you from Konoha with us. Get to the Forest of Death early and wait for us to arrive. Don't let anyone see you. Once it's safe, join us and we'll enter the Forest of Death together, okay? I don't want someone as pretty and as nice as you are to die because sighing heavily, he began to gently run his fingers through her hair. You'll never have to suffer alone again, Hinata-chan. Okay? Hinata nodded and buried her face in his chest, sobbing quietly to herself. When she finally managed to cry herself to sleep, Naruto picked her up and carried her to his bed. Lying her down on it gently, he covered her up and kissed her forehead before whispering, good night. Afterwards, he went to the couch and laid down upon it, waiting for sleep to claim him. I remember that incident. The old man should have had the spine to confront the Raikage about what he did. Instead sighing, he soon shook those thoughts off and drifted off to sleep. It wasn't the first time that he'd had to sleep on the couch, so it didn't really bother him all that much to have to do so now. As he drifted off, he smiled as he thought, my life's finally looking good. About tucking time. The next day, Forest of Death. Hiruzen smiled at Yugao and her chosen students. We likely won't be seeing each other for a while. Part of training in the Forest of Death is learning to survive against all odds. Yugao will teach you everything she knows, I'm sure. I want you to be careful in there. There are areas in the Forest of Death that are far more dangerous than anything you saw in there during the survival exercise. No matter how well prepared you think you are, I want you to be extremely careful in there. Now, I believe I've talked your ear off enough. Good luck. He said before he disappeared, leaving Naruto and friends on their own. Once they were on their own, Naruto motioned for his girlfriend and Yugao to follow him inside. After progressing a short distance into the forest, he looked to the side and said, you can come out now, Hinata-chan. Sakura and Yugao were initially confused. Then, Hinata came out of hiding and approached them. Upon reaching them, she bowed and said, sorry. I'm coming with you, okay? Sakura blinked a couple of times before smirking at her. You saw us, didn't you? Seeing Hinata blushing, the pin cat giggled and said, I don't mind. Tell me though, did you enjoy the show? Hinata blushed deeply and tried to stammer out a response, only for Yugao to lightly bop Sakura on the head. Enough of that. Orika-sama is waiting for us further inside. Rubbing the sore spot on her head, Sakura pouted at Yugao for a moment before eventually saying, yeah. I hear you. Let's go. And with that, the party of four delved deeper into the forest until they could see the tower in the distance. Afterwards, Yugao held up her hand and commanded the three of them to stop. When they heard a roar coming from nearby, Naruto and the girls understood why she had them stop. They followed Yugao as she began to climb a nearby tree. Following after her, they continued delving deeper into the forest until they came across a sign warning of extreme danger ahead. Are we sure we want to go in there? Naruto questioned uneasily. Yugao giggled and said, trust me, it's not as bad as it seems. Follow me. We'll see Orika-sama real soon, I promise. The others simply nodded as they followed Yugao into the danger zone. It didn't take much longer for them to reach a hidden entrance into an underground bunker of sorts. I see. Those signs were meant to keep people from finding this. Clever. Naruto thought to himself with a grin on his face. Entering the hideout, or whatever Orika preferred to call this place, Naruto looked around curiously. Okay, what exactly is this place? It's definitely not what I was expecting. Welcome, Naruto-kun. A familiar voice said. Out of the shadows stepped Kuriko Yakushi. And welcome to your friends as well. As for what this place is, think of it like a hidden lab, some place to test new concoctions, study up on a variety of different topics, and even where you can sit and read a good book if you're at all interested. Yugao frowned and said, it's also one of the only safe places for Orika-sama in the village, after what Danzo pulled. All because she wouldn't help that sick bastard. Kuriko nodded and said, that's why Danzo is our primary target in this invasion. We're going to kill that monster. We'd target Hiruzen as well, but for now we only want to distract him, so he won't notice you're all gone until it's too late. Besides, we happen to think it's appropriate that you be the one to kill that monster, Naruto-kun. Naruto clenched his fist tight and grinned somewhat sadistically. That's something I have to look forward to then. I might not stand a chance as I am now, but soon enough, I know I'll be strong enough to take him down. Right now, I'll just be happy to get the hell out of this village. I want to be free of these monsters. Kuriko nodded and led them down the hallway and into a rather large room. Sitting there was Orika, a pleasant smile on her face. Naruto-kun. So nice of you to come. And I see you've brought little Hinata-chan as well. I assume you have decided to escape the village as well. Hinata nodded and bowed politely to Orika. Yes, Orika-sama. Naruto-kun is the only reason I've chosen to go on living. I need him in my life, otherwise. Naruto placed a comforting hand on Hinata's shoulder and said, it's okay Hinata-chan. Orika-chan won't turn you away. Orika smiled kindly at that and said, Naruto-kun is right. I've had my agents keep an eye on you, Hinata-chan. My only concern is the fact that you were too afraid to approach my Naruto-kun. I'm a little disappointed that you never made the effort to reach out to him and be his friend. If I bring you with me, I need to know that you'll step up and do the right thing if the situation calls for action. Can you become more confident to the point you can defend Naruto-kun if need be? Or will you always be a timid little girl? Hinata frowned for a moment before she reached out and took Naruto's hand, clenching it tightly. From now on, I'll do absolutely anything to stand at Naruto-kun's side. Here it's been hard because I knew that if I tried to get close to Naruto-kun, my father would do something to him again. My father and my clan never approved of Naruto-kun. When he saved me from bullies, the elders sent members of the branch house to assault him to prove a lesson to the two of us. I didn't want Naruto-kun to be hurt ever again. But I wanted him to have a friend, someone he could count on to have his back. I didn't know what to do. If you help me escape with Naruto-kun, I'll never let anyone hurt him ever again. Naruto blushed a bit at how passionate Hinata was about this. Hinata-chan. Orika smiled proudly at Hinata and clapped her hands. Very good. Kuriko-chan will get you three out of the village. I have further need of Yugao here. I promise you that as soon as our business here is concluded, we will join you in Atagakur. Please be safe, Naruto-kun, Sakura-chan, and Hinata-chan. Kuriko-chan, take very good care of them. Do you understand me? Kuriko bowed to her master and said, of course, Orika-sama. Come, let's get the three of you out of here and back home where you belong. Sakura frowned as she looked between Orika and Yugao. Will you two be okay? Are you sure we can't help in some way? Yugao smiled at her and said, we will be just fine. We appreciate the offer, but our main priority is getting you out of here. Everything else is just a secondary objective. So please don't worry too much. Kuriko-san, we're counting on you. Kuriko nodded and said, of course. Be safe, both of you. Looking at her three charges, Kuriko motioned for them to follow her. Nobody else knows about this, but the tunnels down here extend all the way outside the village. We built them that way just in case. The trio nodded in understanding before Naruto realized something. Wait, I forgot to give Orika-chan a sample of my blood. Kuriko smirked at him before pointing towards a nearby room. I was actually about to take care of that little problem. In here, sweetheart. Opening the door, she led Naruto inside of the makeshift lab and grabbed hold of a few vials. Motioning for Naruto to hold out his arm, she proceeded with the necessary procedures that came with drawing blood. Once she had 2 vials full of blood, she smiled at her love and said, make a clone and have it run these to Orika-sama. Be extra careful not to drop them. She'll do what needs to be done with them. Naruto nodded and created a single shadow clone to take the vials to Orika. Once that was done, he fixed his sleeve before following after Kuriko once again. It would be a long walk before they emerged well outside of the village. Be safe, Orika-chan, Yugao-san. I don't want you to be hurt. 1 week later. Yugao couldn't help but smirk as she watched her boyfriend from the shadows. Seeing as she was supposed to be in the forest of death, training Naruto and Sakura, she couldn't reveal herself to anyone. However, Orika had finally given her permission to assassinate Heichiko. Oh, how she hated the man. She hated having to kiss him. She hated letting him touch her. She felt disgusted with herself for even letting the man look at her. Now here she was, ready to kill the bastard. When Heiid entered an alley, Yugao frowned slightly. He knows he's being followed. Clever bastard. She thought to herself with a heavy frown on her face. Shrugging it off, she put on a mask Orika had given her to wear should she need to. Afterwards, she slipped into the alley and waited patiently. When Heiid appeared behind her with a kunai to her throat, she smirked slightly, but didn't say a word. Who are you and why are you following me? You don't look like one of our own. Heiid said, only to gasp when the kunoichi in his grip burst into smoke. Before he could react, he felt 3 blades puncture him in the heart, a lung, and his throat. Recognizing the technique, he tried to speak her name, only to gag on his own blood. Yugao why? Dispelling her clones, Yugao cleaned her blade before slipping it away into its sheath. Without speaking a word, she severed his head from his body and sealed it away within a scroll. It wouldn't do to let a Yamanaka search through the dead man's mind, after all. Once her business was done, she disappeared into the darkness, making her way back towards the forest of death. On the way, however, she saw something that bothered her. What the hell is that girl doing? Up ahead of her, she saw Gaia attacking Dosu, an ally. Standing nearby, watching the spectacle, was the Tsunade Jonin Baki. He didn't seem to care that Gaia was attempting to kill someone that they were in an alliance with. Furious, she prepared to move in and do something about it, but before she could, Dosu became entrapped in Gaia's sand. When he screamed out in anguish a moment later, she knew she was too late to save him. As his blood dripped through the sand and to the ground below, Yugao thought, Orika-sama will be hearing about this. Gaia just killed an ally. And with that, she disappeared once more into the nearby forest of death. The Togakure 2 days later. Naruto smiled as he looked around the village known as a Togakure. While the main location seemed to be an underground base of sorts, an actual village had been built atop of it. It wasn't overly large, but it was certainly a beautiful village, all things considered. The group had arrived about 3 days ago and had begun to get truly settled in. They had been given some of the nicest rooms available in the underground area where it was safest. Sakura and Hinata both frequently snuck into his room to cuddle with him though, so they rarely slept in their own beds. Naruto didn't really mind, though. It was nice to be so affectionate with people after the hell he had gone through back in Konohagakure. At the moment, the 3 of them were listening to a lecture Kuriko was giving to a class full of students, themselves included. She was teaching them the basic mechanics of medical ninjutsu, as well as basic first aid. While most of this was basically a recap of what they already knew, they were still learning more about a field that each of them were interested in. When Kuriko began the hands-on teaching, Sakura happily volunteered. The Pinket was excited to learn how to use medical ninjutsu. It felt like a field that was right up her alley, and she couldn't wait to make proper use of it. While Kuriko helped Sakura learn the ins and outs of medical ninjutsu, Hinata stepped up to Naruto and leaned in, kissing him on the cheek. Do you have any regrets about coming here, Naruto-kun? You haven't really said much since we arrived. Naruto blinked a couple of times before shaking his head. Of course not. I already love it here. It's just taking a while for it to set in that I'm safe now. I'm still a little shocked, I suppose. I've dreamt of being free for so long, and now that I have my freedom, it's hard to believe it. I just don't know how to feel right now. Smiling sweetly at him, she said, you'll get used to it, sweetheart. Just take your time, okay? You've been through so much already. You deserve this happiness. And leaning in close, she nipped at his ear before whispering to him, I'll gladly bear your children if you so desire. I want to make sure you're happier than you've ever been. Naruto blushed deeply and struggled to come up with any kind of response to what she had just said. After taking a moment to breathe, he looked into Hinata's eyes for a time. You're serious, aren't you? Of course I am. I've dreamt of being your wife and bearing your children for so long. I honestly don't care much about anything else but you, Naruto-kun. Well, you and cinnamon buns. I couldn't live without them. She said with a giggle. I love you, sweetheart. More than anything. I want to say it back, I really do, but at the moment all I can admit to is that I'm really fond of you, Hinata-chan. You and the others make me so happy. I've never really known what love feels like before, so this is all still so new to me. I'm sure I'll be able to say it back soon enough. If it helps, I view each of you as an important member of my family. I love being with each of you and spending time with all of you. Honestly, you girls are more important to me than anything. I want us to be happy together for a long, long time. Naruto admitted. Hinata simply smiled at him before resting her head against his chest. It's okay, sweetheart. There's no rush at all. Ooh, looks like it's my turn. Wish me luck, Naru-kun. She exclaimed before kissing his cheek again. As she hurried over to Kuriko to begin her hands-on lesson, she couldn't help but giggle happily. Sakura joined Naruto and smiled at him. Hello, Naruto-kun. Unlike Orika, Kuriko's actually pretty fun to learn under. She's a great teacher and doesn't bore the crap out of people. I like it. Naruto chuckled softly and hugged her close to himself. Kuriko-chan's always been a great teacher. She's taught me so much already and I'm eager to continue learning under her. For now though, I'm content to just spend time with you girls. Now that I don't have to constantly worry that I might be attacked, I feel at peace with myself and my surroundings. It's a wonderful feeling. Good. Now hush. Let's just snuggle together for a while. Sakura said as she leaned against him, wrapping her arms around him and nuzzling into his neck until she felt comfortable. Love you, Naru-kun. I wish I could say it back, Sakura-chan. Maybe I can soon. For now, I'm happy just like this. Still, I hope you and Yuga are alright, Orika-chan. Please be careful, Naruto thought, frowning slightly as he did. Despite the fact that he knew they'd be okay, he still couldn't help but worry. I swear, if anyone tries to take away my newfound happiness, I'll crush them. Orika. The snake Sanin frowned deeply as she watched Gaia from the shadows. She wasn't exactly pleased that this girl killed someone that could have been a good friend to her beloved. And yet, she couldn't help but feel that Gaia might make for a good present for Naruto-kun. Weird how that works. Deciding to leave her alone for now, the Sanin decided that now was as good a time as any to access the home Minato and Kushina had left for their son. Upon arriving, she made sure nobody else was around before she used a bit of Naruto's blood to gain access to the home. Slipping inside quietly, she proceeded to look around inside of the home. Naruto-kun would probably like to have his parents' home brought to him, but that's a bit risky. He'll just have to make do with everything else they left for him. Time to get to work. For a good while, Orika sealed a number of things inside of a large pack's worth of sealing scrolls. When she was finally done, she let out a quiet sigh and looked around inside the house one final time. Such a beautiful home. It's a shame I can't just take it with me. Leaving the building, she slipped out and then disappeared into the shadows once again. Now if only I could figure out what to do about Gaia. Baki needs to be exposed of, but Gaia and her siblings could be useful recruits if I can convince them to come with me to Itagakure. Oh well, at least I have some time to think of something. She thought to herself as she made the journey back to the Forest of Death. Don't you worry, Naruto-kun. Orika-chan has everything covered and we'll be together again soon. Just a few more weeks to go, then Danzo will pay for his crimes and we can all be a happy family together. Nothing will stand in the way of our happiness. Naruto was blushing up a storm as he tried to perform a delicate surgery on a wounded animal. Kuriko had brought in a bunch of rats, mice, and other creatures such as cats and dogs. They were all suffering small wounds, though some of the bigger animals would require immediate medical care if they didn't want to lose a limb or something. The goal of today's lesson was to get the medics in training some hands-on experience. They also needed to learn how to work under pressure and keep their focus, no matter what kinds of distractions there were. As Kuriko walked off to check on the other students and their progress, Naruto groaned into his hands and said, damn it. Such a tucking tease, I swear. Sighing softly, he looked at his rat to see it was barely clinging to life now. Activating his technique again, he began the healing process once more. Please don't die, little one. I'm sorry for making things worse. Meanwhile, from where they were at in the classroom, Sakura and Hinata smirked at each other. Poor Naruto-kun. Kuriko enjoyed that way too much. Sakura said. Hinata giggled to herself as she finished healing the dog she was tending to. You would have loved to do that to him, too. Don't deny it. The pin cat smirked at her for a moment before she finished healing the cat she had been working on. I'm not denying it. I'd just like to think you and I would take it a step further. Screw the class, tucking on the teacher's desk would be wonderful. Hinata giggled pervertedly and said, oh, most definitely. Maybe he'll ravish us later when we get to be alone. Ooh, the things we could get up to. Hinata likey. Sakura giggled and said, talking about yourself in the third person now. Hinata shrugged and said, if it gets the point across, then sure. I think I might just ambush him later and tuck his brains out. The Pincat smirked at her and said, my. Someone's feeling rather bold. Is freedom from your clan really that freeing? You seem to be in a much better mood these days. The lavender-eyed beauty nodded happily and said, oh, it's a wonderful feeling, Sakura. No more of their abuse. No more scorn and hatred. I can finally be open about my feelings and speak my mind. I don't have to play the perfect emotionless little princess. I'm finally free and I feel fantastic. Now I can openly express my feelings for Naruto-kun and I can have sex with him whenever I want. After a moment, she began to giggle pervertedly to herself. Ooh, I can't wait to give birth to his children. We'll have the most wonderful family. Sakura nodded in agreement. Oh yeah. I can't wait to be married. I don't even care if we have children before we're officially married. I just know I'm truly happy. Happier than I've ever been. I don't have to deal with my stupid parents trying to dictate things for me. No more of their thing about winning Sasuke's love just to get at his money. Freedom tastes so sweet. And damn does that beep feel great when it's pounding my beep. Just wait until you get to feel it for yourself. Holy, will you ever be happy. It's wonderful. While the two girls continued to talk with one another with the occasional giggling fit, Naruto couldn't help but shake his head. I swear, girls have no right to call us guys pigs and perverted filth. Girls can be just as, if not worse, than us guys. I can't complain, though. The sex is great. Orika. While her beloved and his girlfriends were safe in a Togakure, Orika wasn't so happy. She was currently disguised as the Jonin sensei of what remained of her genin team. Looking into their eyes, she said, Dosu was killed the other day. I had hoped to get the three of you out of here and back to a Togakure where it's safest. But he was killed by one of our allies. Zaku scowled and asked, who did it? And what are we going to do about it? Orika frowned and said, Gaia is the one responsible for Dosu's death. And her sensei, Baki, watched it happen. He didn't do anything to stop her. He seemed almost pleased with what Gaia did. Sadly, Gaia is vital to our plans, so I'd rather not target her if we can help it. But Baki needs to die. I won't tolerate that man's actions any longer. Kin frowned slightly and said, but we can't defeat him yet. So, what do you want us to do, sensei? Orika smiled at her genin and said, my agents will deal with Baki. For now, I'm going to personally train you both until the day of the finals. What I want you two to do is to kill the genin from Konohagakure. I'll let you decide if you want to kill them during the tournament, fair and square, or you can skip the finals and assassinate some of the other genin watching from the stands. There is one genin in particular I would love to see killed. Zaku asked, who would that be, sensei? Kin smirked and asked, is it Niji Hyuga? Please say it is. Orika giggled and said, nailed it in one. Niji is rotten to the core. Kin-chan, I get the feeling you're more than eager to assassinate him. Strike when everyone least expects it and end him. Zaku, well, Kin will be busy in the stands, I want you to fight in the finals. Use your best judgment to determine who should live and who should die. Just, be careful, okay? Some of your opponents will not be easy to fight. And chances are high that we'll be regarded with a great deal of suspicion. Especially since certain people won't be there for the final matches. Zaku and Kin nodded, but they refrained from saying anything. They didn't want to let it slip that Naruto was no longer in the village. So instead, Kin looked into Orika's eyes and asked, so, what would you be teaching us, sensei? Well. 1 week later. Baki clutched at his side as he tried desperately to escape his assailant. No, what the hell is going on? Who the hell did I piss off? He thought as he continued to run through the darkened alleyways, hoping to lose his pursuer. After a few minutes, he paused to lean against the wall. He couldn't see too well in the darkness, but he could tell he was bleeding badly. If he didn't get medical help soon, he would likely die within the hour. I never saw it coming. Whoever it is, they're good. As he tried to continue on his way, he slowly stumbled, tripping over his own feet. Falling to his knees, he realized that he was far too woozy to stay on the move. So, as quietly as he could, he began to crawl along the ground, desperate to get out onto one of the main streets of Konoha. Sadly, it was in the dead of night, and the likelihood of anyone coming to his rescue were awfully slim. Right as he neared the end of the alley, Baki felt something pierce him through the back. It didn't take long for him to realize that his assailant had stabbed him through the heart. So close, damn it. As the light left Baki's eyes, his assailant chuckled darkly to herself. Orika-sama's will be done. The agent severed Baki's head from his body before sealing it away inside of a storage scroll. Afterwards, they wondered to themselves, now, what should I do next? After a moment, the unknown agent tapped a finger. I suppose I could go pay a certain Suna trio a visit and give them a little warning, but I'd rather not deal with that psycho bis if I can help it. Too much of a pain. Shrugging their shoulders, the assassin removed their mask and removed their gear, sealing it away inside of a seal inscribed on their clothes. Once the agent stepped out into the light, their identity was revealed. Sorry, honey, but it's high time I do away with you. Then again, you might just see it coming, wouldn't you, Shikaku? Giggling to herself, the now revealed Yoshino Nara decided to just enjoy a casual stroll throughout the village, aiming to celebrate a job well done. Poor Shikamaru. He's going to lose his dear daddy. I don't want to hurt you, baby. But I can't exactly take you with me, either. You're loyal to this village and the Hokage, after all. You just wouldn't understand why mommy dearest has to do these things. The next morning. Tamari was pacing around in the room she was sharing with her siblings. Damn it. Where is he? Something doesn't feel right about this. She said. She was definitely agitated and incredibly nervous at the moment. Something's happened. Baki-sensei wouldn't just disappear on us like this. Ankuro sighed and leaned back against the wall. You've got a point. But ranting and raving about it won't solve anything. Besides, what motive could anyone have to kill Baki-sensei? I'm sure he's fine. Tamari glared at him for a moment before turning to her little sister. Gaia, what do you think? Do you know anything? Gaia stared blankly into Tamari's eyes and said, it doesn't matter. The plan doesn't change simply because Baki is gone. I will destroy Konoha. The blonde frowned and shook her head. I don't know. Maybe we should warn the Hokage. Before she could say any more, they heard knocking on their door. Quickly rushing over to it, Tamari opened the door, hoping dearly that it was their sensei. However, the one she saw was her dear father, Rasa. Eyes widening, she began to tremble in fear. How much did you hear, father? Rasa glared down into his daughter's eyes and said, I heard enough. I do hope you change your mind, Tamari. If you betray me, betray us, you will be dealt with appropriately. Traitors are not treated kindly. You know that. So why even entertain the notion of warning that old fool about our plans? Tamari quivered in front of her father. He wasn't exactly the kindest man in the world and she feared him more than any other emotion. I'm just worried. Can we really trust Orika? And Baki-sensei? Rasa shook his head and closed the door behind him. Baki is dead. His body was discovered an hour ago. Nobody knows the identity of his killer. However, I did get in touch with Orika. It would seem Gaia killed an ally of ours. She was not pleased and told me to handle it. I had hoped Baki would have stepped in to prevent you from doing something so foolish, Gaia. It would seem I was wrong. I am highly disappointed in the both of you. Gaia frowned at her father and said, I do not see the problem. That boy was weak and wouldn't have survived long, anyways. Why would Orika want such a weak fool in her village? That is not the point here, Gaia. Rasa bellowed. You don't kill your allies. You're supposed to be able to trust each other and we can't keep that trust if you decide to be a tucking psychopath. So either get yourself under control or I'll deal with you personally. Do you understand me, Gaia? Gaia glared into Rasa's eyes, but she soon looked away, knowing she couldn't challenge her father just yet. You still need me, father. Don't forget that. Stepping up to his daughter, he prepared to slap her, only for Tamari to quickly grab his arm. Please, father, don't do it. If you have to punish someone, then punish me. Rasa shook Tamari off of him before turning and leveling her with a glare. You're already on thin ice with me as it is, Tamari. You are not to tell the Hokage anything about our plans. You know why we're doing this. Danzo has to die for his crimes against us and against Orika. He has committed so many horrible crimes and nobody has done a damn thing to stop him. Danzo and those foolish elders that side with him need to die, Tamari. We have to do something to put things right. For your information, I do trust Orika. She has been betrayed by Konoha as well. She has suffered at Danzo's hands. She understands better than anyone what we're going through because of that man and because of Konoha's hypocrisy. So why, Tamari? Why would you betray me like this? Because you're a lousy father. Ever since mother died, you've been getting worse and worse. It's like we're not even your kids anymore. We're just your tools to be used and cast aside when we break. That's why, father. Tamari said, glaring at him angrily. Frowning deeply at his daughter, Rasa shook his head and said, then you're a fool. We cannot survive with a wind daimyo screwing us over the way he has been. I'm doing this, all of this, so you can survive. I've been pushing you three harder than any other because I care. Because I have high expectations for you. Orika actually wants to help us. Hiruzen lets the elders and Danzo get away with everything, including abusing their Jinchuriki. That boy, Naruto Uzumaki. He has so much potential and it's being squandered in this wretched village. I had hoped you three would have befriended him, but it's too late for that now. Sighing, Rasa leaned against the door and stared at his children. I'm choosing to do this for our people and for you. But it appears to me that none of you appreciate my efforts or what I've been through trying to fix everything. So, I swear to you now, if you betray me and your village, I will put you down. I love you. You are my children. But I can't let you three ruin everything we have worked so hard for. Now, will you obey, or do you want to push your luck with me? Tamari frowned at him and said, but Konoha is our ally. You're betraying their trust, all for your own vendetta. You're being a hypocrite. The Kazekage sighed heavily and shook his head in mild disbelief. No, Tamari. Konoha is only our ally on paper. In truth, they've been screwing us over for years. We have no obligation to back them up when they're in the wrong. Looking calmly into his daughter's eyes, he asked, did you know that Konoha betrayed the Uzumaki clan? Tamari frowned and asked, what does that have to do with anything? Rasa narrowed his eyes at her and said, just listen. The people of Uzumaki were allied with Konoha. The Uzumaki helped them with everything. They fought beside them, bled with them, and died for them. They were a loyal and strong clan that valued family above all else. They cherished their bonds and believed in Konoha and its Hokage, almost to a fault. However, when Uzumaki fell under attack, Konoha didn't repay them any favors they owed. In fact, Orika found proof that Hiruzen and Danzo conspired together to get rid of the Uzumaki clan once and for all. The Uzumakis had served their purpose and were no longer needed. In fact, Danzo even provided the enemy forces with the secret to enter Uzumaki undetected. They never saw it coming. The Uzumakis were wiped out. Naruto Uzumaki is one of, if not the last Uzumaki. Orika wants to protect him and keep him safe from people like Hiruzen. Sighing, the fourth Kazekage closed his eyes and shook his head again. Orika has also warned me about a group of S-rank missing nin that are targeting the Jinchuriki scattered throughout the nations. They plan to rip the Biju from their hosts and seal them into a statue known as the demonic statue of the outer path. What you don't know is that, once a Biju is ripped free from its host here, he looks straight into Gaia's eyes. The Jinchuriki dies. I do not want that for you, Gaia. I don't want that for Naruto. I will not let the Akatsuki have you. Looking straight into Tamari's eyes at this point, he said, so you see, Tamari, Konoha isn't some great village without sin. They have done terrible, monstrous things. Just as they betrayed the Uzumakis, they have betrayed us as well. Only, I plan to strike first and put things right, no matter what it takes. So I will ask you again, Tamari. Will you cease this foolish behavior? Or will you betray me and your people for Hiruzen in this village? Tamari looked down at the floor as she pondered over what she should do, or even what she could say in response to everything she had just learned. After a time, she looked into her father's eyes and asked, so you and Orika want to protect the Jinchuriki? You want to protect Gaia? Seeing him nod, the blonde said, you sure have a funny way of showing you care about us. So, I'm sorry, father, but I can't go through with this invasion. I know they're in the wrong, but as Konoha's ally, we have a duty to aid them, not hurt them. You seem to have forgotten that. Rasa shook his head in disappointment. And how do you two feel? He asked, looking at Kankuro and Gaia. Kankuro frowned and shook his head. I don't know. Looking into Tamari's eyes at this point, he said, sorry, sis, but I refuse to betray Suna like this. Yeah, dad's kind of infacile, but I love our home. I won't betray our village. Tamari's eyes widened after hearing that. Turning to Gaia, she asked, Gaia. What about you? Gaia shook her head and said, I feel no loyalty for our village. I feel no loyalty for our father. And I do not feel loyal to Orika. I will not defend Tsunade, but I won't help Konoha, either. I will continue on as I have been, living solely for myself. Tamari looked horrified as she realized that neither of her siblings had her back. Turning to her father, she screamed in fright when he was mere inches away from her. Please, don't do it, father. She pleaded. Rasa shook his head in pity for his daughter. I am sorry, Tamari. Truly, I am. And with that, he stabbed his daughter through the heart. As she collapsed against him, the life slowly leaving her, he closed his eyes and said, God damn it. Kankuro stared in horror as he watched his sister die. He didn't think that his own father would murder one of them in cold blood. The puppeteer was scared and realized very quickly that he needed to be extra careful, so he didn't meet the same fate as his sister. Damn it, Tamari. Why did you have to be so stupid? Aya's eyes were wide as she stared at her sister. As Rasa laid Tamari's body on the floor, the Redeed wasn't entirely sure how she should feel. She wasn't close to her family. Then again, she wasn't close to anyone. The only thing she lived for was herself. Still, something about Tamari's death rubbed her the wrong way. Looking at her father, Gaia debated with herself on what she should do now. As if sensing his daughter's inner debate, Rasa turned to her and said, don't do something foolish, Gaia. I cannot kill you here. Not without freeing the Ichibi. But, if you cross me, I have ways to deal with you. If you know what's good for you, you'll do as I say. Once we're back in Sunagakur, we can discuss things further if you're so inclined to do so. The younger Redeed looked down at her hands and said, very well. I'll cooperate. Closing her eyes, she continued to go over everything in her head. Just by looking at her, one could easily tell that she was conflicted. On the one hand, Tamari was her sister. On the other, they really weren't close, and Gaia didn't really care about either of her siblings. And yet, for some reason, seeing her older sister cut down in such a way by their own father, of all people, left a bad taste in her mouth. I need to be stronger. Strong enough to kill this man. She decided. Rasa scowled at her for a moment before looking down at Tamari. Taking out a scroll, he sealed her body inside before pocketing it. Walking towards the door, he glanced at Kankuro and said, keep an eye on things in my absence, Kankuro. Do not let me down. And with that, he exited the room to go and handle some business. Left alone with Gaia, the black-clad teen shivered nervously. Tuck. I absolutely cannot tell anyone about this. But, Tamari feeling tears trickling down his cheeks, he fell to his knees and buried his face in his hands. This isn't right. How could things end up like this? All because Gaia tucked up and Baki got himself killed. Things have spiraled so far out of control, I might as well just kill myself and get it over with. Gaia stared at her brother apathetically for a time before she stood up and went to leave the room. Pausing for a moment, she glanced back at her brother, almost as if she was trying to decide on something. Soon enough, she shook her head and exited the room. She needed to go and be alone. Why do I feel so angry? Why am I sad? I am not used to these emotions. If Mom was alive, I suppose I would have gone to her in this case. I need. Clenching her hands into fists, she began to shake as she paused in the hallway. I don't know what I need. Maybe some fresh air would help. Orika. Orika was rather curious when she saw Rasa approaching her. She was currently in one of her underground hideouts, just outside the village. Sure, she had given him access to her hideouts, just in case they needed someplace safe to talk. But this time, she knew something was wrong. So, looking into his eyes, she asked, what happened? Rasa tossed the scroll containing his daughter's body to her. When she caught it, he said, my eldest daughter was planning to betray us. She decided it was a good idea to tell the Hokage about our plans. I had to kill my own daughter because of this plan. Orika's eyes widened in horror, and she asked, your own daughter? We could have found another way, Rasa. But why? Why do this? Rasa narrowed his eyes at her and asked, why? Because I can't let anything or anyone foil our plan. Not even my own children. I have to think about my village first. Family comes second to that. Why? Are you trying to tell me you would have done any differently? The great Sannin shook her head to keep herself from saying anything that might trigger the man's temper. She still needed him, but no. You do what you have to do. It's not easy, but doing the right thing never is. I can't believe she'd be so foolish as to rat us out to Hiruzen. Tossing the scroll back to Rasa, she asked, what about Gaia? I had hoped to hear news about her. She's the one I was so angry with, if you recall. Rasa shook his head and said, she refuses to obey my will. She told me pretty clearly that she is only in it for herself. I can't be sure just what she'll do. Orika frowned and said, so, in other words, it doesn't matter if it's an enemy or an ally. She feels no sense of loyalty to anyone but herself. If anyone can help set her on the right path, it would be Naruto Uzumaki. If you need the help, we could discuss things after the invasion. Not right now. Rasa frowned at the mention of Naruto. You think very highly of this Naruto Uzumaki. I have nothing against the boy, but I can't help but wonder, why do you have so much faith in him? The snake Sannin smiled and said, something about Naruto draws people to him. He inspires hope in the people he meets. He makes people feel good about themselves. It's a little hard to put into words. Just know that he's a very special young man. I just know that if he and Gaia met, he'd be able to break through her shell and inspire her to believe in people again. She'd learn not to live just for herself, but for those she cherishes. However. Seeing where she was going with her line of thought, Rasa sighed and began to massage his temples. Any trust she might have had in me is gone. I killed her sister right in front of her. She'll close herself off more than ever, and as a result. Orika nodded and said, not even Naruto may be able to help her anymore. Tell me, why was Tamari considering talking to Hiruzen? Rasa scowled and looked Orika in the eyes with a narrowed gaze. Because somebody had Baki killed. Tamari panicked. I see. I won't apologize for ordering Baki's death. Gaia killed one of her allies, one of my genin. Baki just watched on without a care in the world. He just let it happen. I had hoped you would have been able to put things right. Things truly have spiraled out of control now, haven't they? I'm sorry you were put in such a situation, Rasa. Orika said. The Kazekage shook his head and said, just promise me that you won't let Danzo get away. If you can exterminate that piece of, then I won't have any complaints. Of course. Danzo will not escape my wrath. I'd make him suffer before killing him, but he's far too slippery for that. No, it's best to put that man down fast and hard. Orika said. Good. Rasa said before turning and making for the door. However, he paused and glanced over his shoulder at the Sannin. Tell me something, where is Naruto Uzumaki? I would have expected to hear something about him by now. Orika frowned at him and said, if you must know, Naruto is safe outside of the village. He is where no one will hurt him ever again. Once I am able, I will go to him. Rasa nodded in acceptance of her answer. Very well. Do take care, Orika-san. And with that, he left the room and disappeared down the hallway. Once she was alone again, Orika clenched her fists angrily and thought, what kind of monster kills their own child? If I didn't need his help, I'd kill him for daring to commit such a heinous crime. Damn it. Oh, Naruto-kun, I could really use you right now. Sighing softly, she decided to simply return to her work. I wonder what you're up to now, Naruto-kun. Naruto. Suo, this is Kimiko, huh? Naruto questioned as he looked upon the naked woman floating in the tank before him. What exactly is wrong with her? Hiriko stepped up beside him and said, Kimiko has a rare lung disease that's slowly killing her. Keeping her in suspended animation like this helps to prolong her life until we can find a cure. Looking into her love's eyes, she said, I think you'd like her, Naruto-kun. She's truly loyal to those she comes to care for. You two would be really great friends, I think. Naruto frowned slightly as he looked from Kimiko into Kuriko's eyes. Kuriko-chan, you're the best medic I know. Are you telling me you can't cure her? The silver-haired beauty frowned sadly and shook her head. I'm afraid not, Naruto-kun. I'm hoping that Tsunade Senju can cure her. But we need to find and convince her to come with us. That's actually where you come in, Naruto-kun. Quirking a brow in curiosity, Naruto asked, how can I help? I doubt she'd listen to me. We don't even know each other. Kuriko placed a light kiss upon his cheek before saying, Tsunade was close to your mother. Kushina actually chose her to be your godmother. However, things didn't exactly work out. The third Hokage wouldn't even permit her to see you. In fact, he and Danzo colluded together to trick her into believing you were dead. They even presented the body of a baby boy to convince her you were gone. They put a lot of work into fooling her. Sighing, she turned to look at Kimiko. Tsunade's been wallowing in misery ever since that day. She feels like she lost absolutely everything. First her little brother, then her fiancé, Dan, then Kushina, and finally you. During the upcoming invasion, some of our agents will procure a few items hidden away in the Hokage's office. First is the Scroll of Seals. The second is Hiruzen's little black book. That book is where he writes down every crime he's committed and all of his secrets that he'd like to stay buried. Don't ask me why he keeps evidence lying around like that, but it's something people like him do. It's really odd. Shrugging it off, she looked back into Naruto's eyes and said, anyways, once you and Orika-sama see Tsunade, we'll give her the book. It contains information on why her brother and Dan were killed. They had grand dreams, both of them wanting to be Hokage someday, so they could make things better than they were. They were willful and confident in themselves. Hiruzen couldn't have the two of them being Hokage, though. No, he needed someone more malleable. Someone that would listen to his advice and continue to work out Hiruzen's will. He was too old to continue with the job, but he never wanted to let go of the control he felt with that job. Your father was, sadly, the fool that Hiruzen decided to pass the hat onto. Naruto facepalmed and let out an agonized groan. Tucking hell. My father really was a naive fool, wasn't he? Seeing Kuriko nod, the blonde sighed in exhaustion. Why mom ever married him is lost on me. If he was such a puppet without a mind of his own, you'd think she'd have found someone else to be with. Kuriko smirked at him before asking, and miss you being born into the world. Not a chance. I wouldn't have it any other way. Seeing him blush slightly, she smirked and said, you know, we can be alone for a while. I'm feeling a little nipping at Naruto's ear. She slowly moved down and began nibbling and kissing his neck, leaving the occasional hickey. Frisky. Naruto looked into Kuriko's eyes and smirked at her. I do believe it's time to pay you back for all the teasing. I think I'll start by making you scream my name. Maybe I'll even impregnate you, Once I'm inside of you, you won't be able to resist me, after all. The silver-haired medic blushed at the raunchy images running through her brain. Then, without a word, she pounced on Naruto, knocking him to the floor. Leaning in close, she kissed Naruto passionately and began tearing at his clothes. Need you. Now. The blonde simply smirked wider and said, you didn't say please. Maybe I should punish you. Capturing her lips with his again, he began to remove Kuriko's clothes, a large grin on his face. It didn't take much longer for them to begin making love right in front of the sleeping Kimiko. Not that the two of them would have cared either way. No, they were more interested in each other at this moment in time. All that mattered in this moment was the pleasure and showing each other just how much they felt for one another. Day of the finals. The Kazekage couldn't help but scowl as he looked down at the arena floor. Chancing a glance beside him at the Hokage, he asked, "Is it customary here for so many genin to be missing on the day of the final matches?" Hiruzen frowned deeply and shook his head. "No. No, it is not. I cannot speak for the others, but I know Naruto would have been here by now. Something's wrong. Damn it." On Hiruzen's other side sat the Raikage, though Rasa wasn't interested in the man at all. He was simply a giant mass of muscle with no brain in his head, as far as Rasa was concerned. So instead, he glanced to his other side at the Itokage. In truth, this was just a disguised clone of Orika, considering she was preparing to slaughter Danzo and the entirety of his root forces. "You'd best not fail, Orika. If you let him escape, I'll take it out on you." Elsewhere in the audience at the various Konoha genin that had failed to make it into the finals. Kiba and Neji were both scowling as they glared down at the nearly vacant arena floor. "Where the hell is everyone?" Kiba groused out. "At least Naruto should have shown up. He wouldn't miss something like this for anything." Ino shook her head and said, "Sakura's not down there, either. It's like everyone has taken the day off." Though thinking about Naruto, Ino couldn't help but rub her thighs together. "Damn it. I can't stop thinking about that beep. Sakura gets to go for a good ride on that thing, and I'm stuck with absolutely nothing. I've tried to get myself off, but I'm just so hot and bothered these days that I can't get rid of that itch. I need him. Where the hell is he? What the heck is this? There's only 4 people down there. All the other competitors can't just be missing, can they?" Tenten questioned. Something clearly wasn't right here, but she couldn't quite piece together what the hell was happening. Neji frowned and shook his head. "Whatever's going on, they're making a mockery of the Chunin Exams. If they weren't going to show up, then some of us should have been given the chance that they're squandering." Kiba scowled and brought a hand to his empty eye socket. "The least Naruto could have done was show up. I wanted to see what the hell else he could do. I hope to see him get crushed in the finals. He deserves it for what he did to me." Shino frowned for a moment as he looked around. "Has anyone seen Hinata? She appears to be missing as well." Neji scoffed and said, "So what? She's a weakling and shouldn't have even been entered into these exams to begin with. I say good riddance." Kiba glared at Neji, but he refrained from saying anything to the arrogant ouchbag. Instead, he turned to stare at the Hokage when he began to give his speech. "Hinata's been missing for a few weeks now. I hope she's okay." As Hiruzen looked around and gave his speech, he could tell that the visiting guests and the locals alike were feeling quite agitated. There would be a distinct lack of entertainment for them, what with only 4 genin appearing for the final matches. Rock Lee, Amoy, Gaia, and Zaku Apumi. But where the hell are the rest of them? This makes no sense. Once his speech was done, Hiruzen sat back down and began to massage his wrinkled forehead. "I'm sorry. I truly don't know what has become of all the participants. This doesn't make any sense." The Raikage frowned and shook his head. "They are making a mockery of these exams, Hokage. I do hope more will show up before their matches, otherwise these are going to be a very boring set of fights." Hiruzen nodded and said, "You're right, of course." Snapping his fingers, he waited for one of his Anbu to approach. When he did, Hiruzen whispered in his ear, "Find Yugao and get her to tell you what the hell happened to Naruto Uzumaki and Sakura Haruno. Now." "Of course, Hokage-sama. What will you do in the meantime?" the Anbu asked. Hiruzen shook his head and said, "I'll stall for as long as I can. Let's just hope these first few matches drag on for a while and give the other participants a chance to show up. Hurry." "Right." the Anbu said before he disappeared with his fellow Anbu to begin the search for Yugao and her missing students. As he watched Hiruzen beginning to break down, Rasa couldn't help but smirk behind his veil. "Oh, how easy you would be to kill right now. But no, I shall bide my time and deal with you another day. The main goal here is to keep you distracted so you don't find out the truth before it's too late." Orika and her chosen team consisting of Yugao, Yoroi and Yoshino were currently in the underground where Danzo and his root liked to hide. Danzo clearly knew they were coming for him, as his root were there to hound them every step of the way. However, they were all disguised so Danzo wouldn't know the identities of the intruders until it was far too late. After slaughtering a rather large number of forces, Orika stopped her team outside of a door. "Danzo's in there. I want you all to be very, very cautious. Do not look him in the eyes. I refused to assist him when he demanded I help him with his sick experiments, but there's a chance he could have a Sharingan implanted in his right eye, behind his bandages. I don't know what other tricks he might have up his sleeve." Taking a moment to think on it, she continued. "His bodyguards are Fuyamanaka and Toranaburami. They are incredibly dangerous. I expect you 3 to work together and take them both down quickly. Do not hesitate and do not attempt to take them prisoner. Go for the kill immediately. I'll deal with Danzo personally. I don't want any of you to die, so please be careful." The three agents nodded in understanding before watching as Orika counted down from 3. When the final finger curled down, they burst into the room and immediately went on the attack. They weren't willing to listen to any of Danzo's egotistical rambling. No, they were going to take them down as quickly as they could, whether their opponents were ready for it or not. Danzo smirked cruelly as he dodged Orika's attempts to strike him down with a kunai. Ah, if it isn't Orika. That disguise could never fool the likes of me. Come back to kill me after all this time, It's too bad you can't touch me, isn't it? He taunted with a sadistic grin on his face. Do tell me, did you enjoy whoring yourself out to the Jinchuriki? I suppose if he's going to be good for something, it would be a pleasurable tuck, wouldn't it? He's not exactly the most skilled specimen ever, but I suppose he could serve a purpose. Tell me, where is Naruto Uzumaki? It's clear to me that he is no longer in Konoha. What, did you spirit him away after realizing the sex was too good to pass up? I can't see any other reason you'd be so interested in that failure of a shinobi. Then again. Danzo grimaced when Orika sliced into his good arm, damn near cutting clean through his arm. Glaring at his opponent, he decided to screw with her mind a bit more and get in her head. If he could get her to make one small mistake, he'd have her. You loved that foolish Minato boy, didn't you? What, couldn't have him, so you went for his son. That's pathetic and you know it. Admit it, you were ashamed because Minato chose a younger woman over you. You're old and likely incapable of siring a child without some manner of help. Not even Uzumaki can help you there. Tell me, how does it feel knowing that you can't give Naruto the one thing he's desired more than anything else? A family. Orika growled and lifted her head to glare into his good eye. Swinging her kunai at his face, she soon paused when Danzo grinned and said, "You're mine. Now be a good girl and kill your friends, would you?" Orika's eyes widened in horror as she realized what was happening. No. I can't let this happen. Naruto-kun. Hiruzen had just finished giving his customary speech, though he honestly wished he could drag it out for longer than he had. His mind was more focused on figuring out what the hell had happened to the village's Jinchuriki. Damn it. They still haven't found him. The other competitors don't matter, but we need Naruto. So, where the hell is he? Retaking his seat, the aged Hokage brought a hand to his face and let out an agonized groan. Where the hell is everyone? Lowering his hand, he looked at the other Kage seated nearby. I'm not accusing any of you of any wrongdoing, but do any of you happen to have some clue about where everyone is? Something is very wrong here. So many competitors going missing isn't a coincidence. No, something terrible is happening. I looked at Hiruzen for a time before saying, I haven't a clue what happened to them. But I do agree with you. This is no coincidence. Are you sure they didn't kill each other outside of the exams? Rasa scowled at this point and said, I know why my daughter hasn't arrived. She was found dead just the other day. If I were you, Hokage Dono, I'd do something about the people in your village. I do not take kindly to my daughter being murdered in your village. I should never had to kill you, Tamari. If only you had used your head and not threatened our plan. Before Hiruzen could say anything in response, the Otokage spoke up. Dosu was killed as well. And Kin has gone missing. I do not know if she still lives. Glaring into the Hokage's eyes, she said, I'm beginning to wonder if it's normal for foreign ninja to die so suddenly in your village. Trying to weed out the competition, perhaps. The Hokage clenched his fists angrily and said, no. It is not. But that does sound like something Danzo Shimura would do. Damn it. I'm sorry for your losses. I know that won't excuse what has happened, but… Rasa shook his head and said, you should have dealt with that man before this point, Hokage. Enough of this, though. Let's just watch the matches and try to forget about this conversation for the time being. A chance to glance at the Kazekage and then at the Otokage. Frowning slightly, he thought, they're going after Danzo themselves. Curious. Oh well, it is not my problem. Hiruzen sighed frustratedly before he tapped his headpiece. Start the first match. Hopefully the others will be found soon. Down below, Genma looked up at the Hokage for a moment and nodded once. Afterwards, he dismissed Gaia and Zaku. Once they were gone, Genma declared, first match. Rock Lee vs Amoy begin. Orika. Danzo grinned victoriously as he watched Orika slowly turn her back to him. Kill them. He commanded. However, when she didn't move, he scowled and exclaimed, I command you to kill them now. Orika turned back to Danzo and began to cackle maniacally. Then, before Danzo could grasp what the hell was happening, the Orika in front of him suddenly exploded, catching Danzo off guard. He couldn't even throw up some kind of defense against said explosion. At this moment, Orika's allies finished off Fu and Torin, severing their heads and torching them. Looking at Danzo's down form, they could easily see that his right arm and left leg had been blown completely off. His body was charred and he was currently struggling just to stay alive. Yoshino smirked at him as she looked at him, being careful not to look into his eyes. Did you really think it would be that easy, Danzo Shimura? Danzo coughed up blood and rolled onto his side, wincing in agony as he did. What would happen? W1. This can't be possible. Orika stepped out of the shadows and giggled to herself. You wasted your technique on a clone, Danzo. I came prepared for all of your tricks. This entire time, a single clone has been cutting down your root forces and battling you. Face it, you were outsmarted and you will die without ever having amounted to anything. Farewell, you rotten monster. May you rot in hell. Oh, how Danzo wished he could capture the real Orika in a genjutsu powerful enough to slay her allies. However, a thought came to him and he looked at the other three in the room. Clones too. Yoroi simply grinned and said, no, we aren't clones. Only Orika-sama. It was certainly fun taking their lives with our own hands. Too bad for you. Danzo smirked evilly to himself, even as he continued to bleed out on the floor. Good job, Sai. He said before the life finally left his eyes. Orika blinked in confusion for a moment before she saw the young man appear behind Yoroi. Before she could even call out to him to move, Yoroi's head fell off of his body. As his body fell, Orika's hands clenched into fists and she prepared to act. However, when Sai went to strike down Yugao next, she spun around and began a fierce sword duel with Danzo's final agent. Ishino was waiting for the right moment to jump in and finish Sai off. However, when he managed to slip inside Yugao's guard and stab her through her left leg, her eyes widened in horror as her purple-haired companion stumbled backwards, leaving herself open for Sai's next attack. Quickly utilizing the replacement technique with Yugao, Yoshino quickly thrust her sword through Sai's forehead, piercing his brain in the process. As Sai's body dropped to the ground, Yoshino winced as she placed a hand to the wound Sai had managed to inflict in the end. Looking down, she saw that her belly had been sliced open and she was bleeding profusely. Tears began to stream down her cheeks as she fell to her knees. Oh, Orika-sama. Orika quickly hurried over to Yoshino and began to survey the damage done to her friend. Yoshino, just hold on, I'll save you. Yoshino giggled ruefully and said, face it, Orika-sama, there's no healing this wound. If Tsunade-sama was here. The snake Sanin had tears streaming down her cheeks as she held Yoshino in her arms. I am so sorry. I shouldn't have put you in such a dangerous situation. This is not your fault. Yoshino exclaimed angrily. I chose to serve you, Orika-sama. I was more than willing to sacrifice my life to make you happy with the man you love. I have no regrets. I'm just sorry I won't get to see Naruto again. I was hoping. As Yoshino's eyes began to close, Orika held her tighter and began to sob. I know. You would have been my maid of honor. I love you, Yoshino. You're dear to me. I'm really going to miss you. I didn't know about that boy. I should have. Yoshino simply giggled weakly and patted Orika's cheek very lightly. Don't blame yourself, Orika-sama. I'll always watch over you. After Yoshino perished in her arms, Orika clenched her eyelids shut tight and quivered as she simply held Yoshino close. After taking a while to grieve, she laid her friend down and moved over to examine Yugao's injury. Looking it over, she said, you'll be okay, Yugao. It's not a fatal wound, but you won't be able to walk on that leg for a while. I'll get you out of Konoha. We're going back to Itagakure where it's safest. I can't believe we just lost two of our own. Damn it. Yugao winced in pain, but offered her master a smile. It's okay, Orika-sama. We knew the risks going into this mission. They died with no regrets. We love you, just as you cherish and love us. Now come on, let's get out of here and go back home. Orika sealed Yoshino's and Yoroi's bodies into a couple of sealing scrolls. Afterwards, she created a clone to carry Yugao, seeing as she couldn't possibly walk on her own right now. Finally, she created 3 more clones to essentially ransack Danzo's office, taking whatever they could that might prove useful later on. Once they were gone, Orika wiped away her tears and thought, you've taken so much from me, Danzo. I never wanted to lose 2 of my friends. Not like this. Arena. The battle between Rock Lee and Amoy had been an intense one so far. Whilst Lee had speed and strength on his side, Amoy had a bit more experience under his belt. However, while Amoy was doing an admirable job of keeping up with Lee and fending him off, it was obvious that he was slowly losing ground. Amoy had been getting slower as the match progressed, and everyone could tell he was getting tired, while Lee seemed to still have quite a lot of energy to burn through. Realizing that he was losing the battle, Amoy grumbled irritably to himself as he thought over his options. If he continued the fight, he knew he would lose unless he managed to get a lucky hit in. However, he knew that, with Lee's speed, it would be hard as hell to land the decisive blow. Then, he came to the realization that sometimes you have to know your own limitations. Right now, he couldn't win against his opponent. He had reached his limit for this particular battle. However, this didn't mean he couldn't get stronger and faster after training for a while. So, while he might not be able to challenge Lee today, if he kept up with his training, he knew he could best even the mighty green beast of Konoha. Sighing, Amoy raised his hand and said, I forfeit. I just can't keep up with my opponent. He seems to be getting even stronger while I'm getting more and more exhausted. Once the proctor called the match in Lee's favor, Amoy walked up to his opponent and shook hands with him as a sign of respect. Up above, Hiruzen felt like taking a bite out of his hat, he was so frustrated. He had hoped that the first match would have lasted a while longer to give his Anbu time to find Yugao and her students. Damn it. Where the hell could they all be? Did Orika have something to do with their disappearance? She couldn't have Sasuke, so did she take Naruto in his place? No, that doesn't make sense. What the hell is going on? The Otokage frowned as the next combatants were called down to the arena. She knew that the real Orika had trained Zaku hard for this fight, but at the same time, he was up against Gaia. Gaia was as unstable an individual as they come, and she had already proven that she didn't differentiate between friend and foe. Everyone was fair game in her eyes. Isumi, you'd better stick to the plan and use that genjutsu. I don't want to see another one of my genin be killed by that bis. As if sensing his comrade's unease, Rasa looked at Orika's clone out of the corner of his eye and said, if you don't want another of your genin to die at the hands of my daughter, I suggest you convince him to forfeit the match now. Otherwise, she's likely to kill him. Orika's clone glared at Rasa and whispered harshly to him, I bet you wouldn't even lift a finger to stop her, would you? Seeing him simply smirk at her, the clone turned her gaze towards Gaia and Zaku as they took their places in the arena. Please, Miss Yumi, don't let Zaku die. As the fight got underway, Zaku immediately went on the defensive, avoiding tendrils made of sand as they lashed out at him, attempting to strike him down. The Odo genin knew that he had to stay on the move to avoid being killed by the psychopathic Jinchuriki he was up against. He had learned a lot under Orika's guidance, but even she admitted that his best bet was to just keep on the move and try to get in close enough to unleash his decapitating airwaves attack where Gaia's defense was the weakest. Unfortunately, he wasn't quite sure how to go about doing that, considering the Psycho Bis had what a lot of people referred to as the ultimate defense. After dodging for a while and trying to slip in close, Zaku breathed a sigh of relief when feathers began to rain from the sky. This was the sign that the invasion was starting and, with Gaia as their secret weapon, he figured she'd do her damn job and not kill him. Sadly, this was not the case. I ensnared Zaku's leg before slamming him into the ground a couple of times, grinning sadistically as she broke his bones. Afterwards, she commanded her sand to swallow him whole before clenching her fist tight. As she saw another of her genin perish at the hands of that psychotic little bis, Orika's clone quivered in anger before she turned on Rasa and exclaimed, get that bis under control already. She just killed another of my genin. Seeing him smirk at her, she clenched her fists angrily and shouted, you sick bastard. Don't you dare smirk at me like that. Rasa simply shrugged and said, Gaia makes the perfect weapon. She's emotionless and, more importantly, she is ruthless. So long as she obeys me, I care not who she chooses to kill or why. Perhaps you should have done your homework so that little Zaku could have been spared. Orika's clone snarled but didn't respond right away. When Rasa turned to attack the Hokage, as per his and Orika's plan, the clone couldn't take it anymore. Taking hold of a kunai, she moved in close and proceeded to stab Rasa numerous times in the back before finally letting him drop to the ground. As he lay there bleeding out, slowly dying from his wounds, he looked into the clone's eyes and scoffed dismissively. Heh. Should have seen this coming the moment I killed Tamari. I figured you didn't trust me, but it would seem I pushed things a little too far this time. Oh well. I suppose I'll be seeing you in hell someday. Monsters like us wouldn't be permitted entry into heaven. Just keep up your end of the bargain. Save my people. As the life left Rasa's eyes, Orika's clone looked at the Hokage, who had watched the murder with wide eyes. Hokage-sama, I'm sorry you had to see that. But this is the second of my genin to die at Gaia's hands. I was furious. Hiruzen nodded slowly, but didn't say a word in response. Instead, he turned to gaze out at the audience that had been put to sleep, courtesy of the mass genjutsu. Just what is going on here? Is this Orika's doing? What does any of this accomplish? Orika's clone frowned to herself and went to speak, only for the Raikage to interrupt her. So, an invasion during the Chunin Exams. And by Odo and Suna, no less. Normally, I'd beat you senseless, Otokage, but I have something else in mind. Then, before Hiruzen and Orika's clone could react, the Raikage activated his lightning armor technique. A second later and Hiruzen was sent flying, grunting in agony as he could feel some bones breaking. I'd be a fool not to take this opportunity presented to me. The Otokage clenched her fists tight, but couldn't find it in herself to say anything. If she could, she would have killed the Raikage for daring to pull this stunt. However, she was just a clone and couldn't possibly stand up to the facile. Chancing a glance at her old sensei, she thought, damn it. This fasshole is taking away Naruto's rightful kill. Is denying Naruto his chance at vengeance. I have to do something, but what can I do? Tsuchi knew that assassinating her target would be a trial. She had waited for the genjutsu to be cast before she slipped in close to Neji and prepared to strike him down. Sure, he had broken out of the genjutsu easily enough, but he soon had to contend with a number of Odo and Suna ninja. This kept his attention off of her and allowed her to creep ever closer. As Neji struck down one of the Tsunade ninja and turned to do battle with another, she knew that he could see her coming closer. However, she smirked as she jingled a few bells, capturing him in a sound-based genjutsu. Sure, he could see through pretty much any genjutsu, but her sound-based genjutsu still screwed with his equilibrium and caused him to stumble, nearly passing out in the process. Then, once he was off balance, she gripped a kunai tight and slipped in close. Before the Hyuga could react, she slit Neji's throat and smirked wickedly to herself as she watched him struggle to breathe. However, she knew that, even though he was now on the brink of death, he might still be able to get in a lucky shot before dying. So, with the same kunai, she stabbed him numerous times in the chest, piercing his heart in the process. As he began to collapse, Kin said, "Good riddance, filth. That was for Hinata and everyone else you've ever hurt." Sadly, Kin's sense of victory was short-lived. After watching Neji's body drop to the ground, Kin began turning to find her next target only for a hail of weapons to pierce her body. Coughing up blood, she turned her gaze on the one who had just struck her. Sure enough, as she thought, it was Tenten, Neji's teammate. "This," Kin said before collapsing to her knees. Tenten scowled at the Odo genin and shouted, "How dare you kill Neji-kun? I loved him." As the weapons mistress became surrounded by a group of Odo ninja, she knew that she was likely going to die. She knew that Lee was probably fighting elsewhere in the stadium, and she had seen her sensei, Might Guy, battling a Kakashi Hataki's side earlier. The odds of either of them showing up to save her were pretty slim. She highly doubted that anyone else would arrive in time to save her life. So, deciding on a course of action, she unfurled a couple of scrolls and leapt straight up into the air, raining weapons upon her enemies. "If I die here, then I'm taking as many of you down with me as I can." While her attack killed the majority of her enemies, a few of them had escaped with only minor injuries. She knew that she was in trouble, considering she had just unleashed the majority of her weapons upon them. So, as soon as she touched the ground again, she grabbed her nearest weapon. A curved sword that resembled a scimitar. It wasn't the most practical weapon, but it would serve her purposes well enough. Quickly dashing towards her nearest foe, she prepared to end his life, only to suddenly freeze in place. Blinking a few times in confusion, she glanced over her shoulder and saw what she thought was another Konoha ninja. Mitsumi Tsurugi stood there, smirking at her like he knew something she didn't. Then, when she got a closer look at his headband, she grimaced in realization. And with that single word being uttered, she soon collapsed to the ground, dead as can be. Once she was dead, Mitsumi approached Kin's body and shook his head sadly. "Orika-sama isn't going to like this. I need to get out of here before the same thing happens to me." He thought silently to himself before he looked at his fellow Odo ninja. "Do what you need to do and then get the hell out of here. I don't want our master to lose any more of her ninja. Get going." As the ninja saluted him and dispersed, Mitsumi looked around at all the dead bodies before shaking his head once more. Before anyone could do the same to him, he vanished to make his way to one of Orika's hideouts within the village. "Things have gone to real fast. Orika-sama, I sincerely hope you and the others are okay." "Hiruzen." The third Hokage grunted as he pushed himself back on his feet. Spitting out a glob of blood, he glared into the Raikage's eyes and asked, "Why the hell are you doing this? After what you did last time, shouldn't that have been enough? Now you want to kill me, the Hokage, knowing that your actions will lead to war. What is the purpose of this, Raikage?" He chuckled darkly to himself as he shrugged his shoulders. "No hard feelings, Hiruzen. Like I said, though, I'd be a fool to let this opportunity pass through my fingers. Besides, I think you deserve a good beatdown after the stunt you pulled. Giving us Hisashi's body in place of the one who really killed our ambassador. Then again, I suppose you did see through our plan. Oh well." Looking at the Otokage, he asked, "What are you going to do? It's your people that are invading Konoha this day. I assume you want Hiruzen dead as well. Or are you simply hoping to stay out of my way and keep yourself uninvolved in this little affair?" Orika's clone removed her Kage robes and hat, tossing them aside. Narrowing her eyes at the Raikage, she said, "I promised somebody dear to me that I'd give him all the power he needs to come back here and kill Hiruzen. How am I supposed to tell him that I let you kill the old man without interfering? I hate him just as much, if not more than you do. If I can stay my hand and leave him be, then why can't you? Or are you truly so bloodthirsty?" Hiruzen's eyes widened as he looked at the clone of his student. "I knew you were here, but I never imagined you would sit so close without trying anything." You killed Sasuke-kun. Are you behind the disappearances of Yugao Yuzuki, Sakura Haruno, and Naruto Uzumaki? What have you done? Orika's clone facepalmed itself before glaring at her old sensei. Is now really the time to be questioning me? In case you missed it, he's trying to kill you. I can't match his speed or his strength, and you're no longer in your prime. Chances are high that he's probably going to kill you and me both. I'll do what I can to help you, but… Before Hiruzen could reply, began to laugh loudly. Then, without a word of warning, he bum-rushed the Hokage and landed another harsh lightning-fueled punch to Hiruzen's stomach, sending him flying once again. Turning his gaze to the clone, he asked, helping him, huh? Not too smart of you. I hope you're ready to meet his fate. Orika's clone looked into A's eyes as calmly as she could. She was trying desperately to come up with some kind of plan, but when she saw him approaching her, the clone knew that her time was likely up. Still, she wouldn't just roll over and die without trying something. So, when A appeared in front of her, going for one of his lariat attacks, Orika smirked before shooting her head forth and biting deep into A's neck. Yes, the lightning was hurting her, but she managed to give A version of her curse seal. Moments before Orika's clone dispersed in a cloud of smoke, A's armor technique faded and he clutched at his neck and began to scream in pain. From there, he was further caught off guard when he was struck hard in the back of his head, sending him stumbling forward. As his vision began to swim, he turned to look at Hiruzen and saw him wielding a staff of adamantine. Son of a bitch. Hiruzen coughed up some more blood and staggered a bit. However, seeing as how the Raikage was struggling to remain conscious after what Orika's clone had done to him, the aged Hokage couldn't help but chuckle. To think she'd actually help me. Coughing again, Hiruzen reached up and wiped away the blood trickling down his chin. Overall, he was in bad shape and likely wouldn't survive his internal injuries. However, this was his perfect chance to remove a certain blight upon the world. So, slowly staggering up to A as he finally lost consciousness, Hiruzen clenched his staff tight and began to bring it down repeatedly on the Raikage's head until it was a bloody smear on the ground. Once A was dead, Hiruzen took a few steps back and began to wobble slightly. Sensing this, the staff changed form until Monkey King Enma was standing there, supporting his old friend. Hiruzen, we need to get you to the hospital immediately. They can. The old man coughed up more blood and shook his head. We'd need Tsunade. Coughing again, he fell to his knees and chuckled softly to himself. I'm old, Enma. So very old and so tired. I've lived a good life. Goodbye, old friend. And with that, Hiruzen's eyes closed for the final time. Before the Hokage's body could fall forward, Enma caught him and laid him gently on the ground. Hiruzen, Enma said sadly. Looking around at the village, he could see buildings on fire, large snakes running rampant throughout the village, and more. Then, he turned his gaze to the audience and saw that the various ninja from both Suna and Oto were on the retreat. So, despite the losses they had suffered, they had managed to repel the invaders. At least your sacrifice wasn't in vain, old friend. Seeing movement out of the corner of his eye, the Monkey King turned and looked at the various bodyguards for the Kage in attendance. He was a little surprised that they hadn't bothered getting involved before now. Moving Hiruzen's body behind him, the summon animal looked first at the Raikage's bodyguards and then at the Kazekage's guards. Then he took notice that there were no guards from Itagakure. Shaking himself out of his thoughts, Enma asked, why didn't you act in defense of your Kage? What could you be playing at? Eri, one of the Raikage's bodyguards, shrugged and said, we weren't in agreement with the Raikage. We were meant to guard him, true, but his actions here warranted severe punishment. Because of him, there's a very real chance Konoha and Kumo could go to war now. The two of us saw no reason to involve ourselves in the affairs of our Raikage. I don't know about them. Looking at Rasa's guardians, Enma frowned as they removed their hoods. Who are you and why did you not intervene when your Kage was attacked? One of them, a woman by the name of Pakura, scowled as she glanced back at the body of the Kazekage. Rasa was a scumbag. He murdered his own daughter. All to further his own schemes. As far as we're concerned, the world's a better place without him in it. I would appreciate it if Konoha's forces would allow the four of us, motioning towards the Raikage's guards and then at herself and her partner, to signify who she meant, to leave unhindered. We have no interest in seeing their plans come to fruition. I'm not even sure why I stayed in Suna after Rasa tried to have me killed. Enma nodded in understanding before waving his hand dismissively. Take your people and go. I don't want any more needless bloodshed. Thank you, Monkey King. Pakura said, bowing to the monkey summon. Afterwards, the Kage guardians hurried away, hoping to get far away from Konoha as quickly as possible. Once they were gone, Enma turned his attention to the newly arrived Anbu. What took you so long to react? In case you missed it, Hiruzen, your Hokage is dead. The led Anbu shook his head as he stepped closer. We left as per the orders of Hokage-sama. He wanted us to focus on getting the people to safety and protect key locations. Others were ordered to enter the Forest of Death and go in search of Yugao Yuzuki, Naruto Uzumaki, and Sakura Haruno. They've been missing for some time now. Okage-sama seemed sure that Orika was behind their disappearances, but we couldn't find any trace of them anywhere. Well. Enma scowled at the man and asked, "What is it? Spit it out." "We might not have found them, but we saw evidence of some kind of struggle. There was a lot of blood, yellow and pink hairs, a broken sword that belonged to Yugao." Sighing softly, the lead Anbu shook his head and said, "We don't know if they're still alive or not, but it didn't look good. If Orika is behind their disappearances." Enma scowled and clenched his fist tight. "Damn that woman. I told Hiruzen that he should have killed her while he had the chance. All anyone could do was mourn the loss of so many and wonder how things could have gotten to this point." Orika. Shortly after slipping into her hideout in the Forest of Death, Orika took Yugao to one of her labs and instructed her to sit on the nearby hospital bed. Afterwards, she began to do her utmost best to tend to her friend's wound. "How do you feel, Yugao? Do you think you'll be okay?" The Violette nodded once and said, "I'll be fine. I can make it back to Itagakure with you. Kuriko can heal me once we've arrived." Orika went to say something, only for her clone's memories to hit her like a freight train. Clutching at her head in agony, the snake Sannin scowled and said, "Damn him. Damn all of them straight to hell." Yugao was worried, having not expected such a reaction from her master. "Orika-sama. What happened?" Orika took a deep breath before looking seriously into Yugao's eyes. "Gaia killed Zaku." The invasion began, but closing her eyes, Orika took a few deep calming breaths before speaking again. "Rasa, my clone, killed him after what he said." His casual dismissal of what Gaia had done to yet another of her allies, the dismissal of killing his daughter, it all became too much for my clone to handle. "So she killed Rasa. Then that blasted fool, took advantage of all the chaos and attacked Hiruzen and my clone. I don't know if either of them survived. But, I'm fairly certain that at least the Raikage has perished. My clone gave him her cursed seal, and it seemed to have worked, but I can't be certain what happened after that." Yugao frowned, but didn't say another word. She just winced and grunted occasionally as Orika tended to her wound. It was at this point that Miss Yumi arrived, walking towards them with a deep frown on his face. "Orika-sama, I have bad news." "Great, just what we needed. What happened, Miss Yumi?" Orika asked before wincing in sympathy for Yugao as she began to suture Yugao's wound. Looking between the two women, the stretchy man looked into Orika's eyes and said, "Kin was killed by the genin known as Tenten. She succeeded in killing her target, but Tenten killed her in turn for killing the boy she loved. I killed her, but..." Orika's eyes widened and she began to shake, temporarily foregoing tending to Yugao's wound. After a time, she resumed work on Yugao and said, Damn it. Kin was looking forward to seeing Naruto again. She and Naruto got along well, from what I saw during their time spent together. Damn it." Once Orika finished suturing Yugao's wound, she stood up and looking into Misumi's eyes. "Do you know what became of the Raikage and the Hokage? My clone didn't see the end of their fight." Misumi shook his head and said, "I'm sorry, Orika-sama, but I don't know what became of them. It was odd though. The guards that should have been there for them just weren't. A's guards just watched without doing anything. The Anbu that were meant to be protecting Hiruzen weren't there either. Actually, now that I think on it, where the hell was Jiraiya? I figured he would have been there." Yugao shook her head and said, "No, Jiraiya was most likely in charge of dealing with Orika-sama's snake summons. He couldn't have been there to protect the Hokage if he was forced to deal with that." Orika nodded in agreement. "That's part of the reason I unleashed them on Konoha period. They were just there to serve as a distraction. Miss Yumi, where are the others? Has everyone escaped?" Miss Yumi frowned and shook his head sadly. "We lost a lot of people, Orika-sama. The invasion may have been intended to simply serve as a distraction, but we weren't prepared for how hard Konoha would fight. Soon as forces and ours were forced to retreat. We need to get out of here and get back to Itagakure if we don't want to get captured by the likes of Jiraiya or the others." Orika took a breath to try and calm her frazzled nerves. Once she was finished with Yugao, the snake Sannin stood straight again and said, "Let's go. If the others escaped, they'll meet us back in Itagakure in due time, after they've thrown any potential pursuers off their trail. I need to get home and see Naruto." This whole mission turned into one giant clusterdick. "Yes, we killed Danzo," but sighing sadly, she began to lead her friend's subordinates towards the exit. "The price we had to pay for that one goal was too great. I should have prepared everyone better. There had to be something I could have done to ensure we didn't lose so many lives. Aye. As her master began to quiver and sob, Yugao stepped up to her and hugged Orika. "Orika-sama, no one will blame you. None of this is your fault. Our people knew what they were getting into. I feel terrible about losing our friends and family, but..." Misumi nodded and said, "I can't help but feel like I failed in my duties to you, Orika-sama. I know you cared about those three, but I couldn't do anything to save Kin's lifers Akus. Things didn't go our way today, but we did complete one objective. Danzo is dead. I know it's hard, losing so many people, but we need to hurry and get out of here. I don't trust Jiraiya to let us escape so easily. Orika nodded once as she reached up and wiped away her tears. You're right, Miss Yumi. Of course. Let's hurry. After walking for a while, Orika finally stopped and pressed a hidden button in the wall. When the way opened up for them and daylight began to trickle in, Orika motioned for Yugao and Miss Yumi to remain hidden for the time being. Stepping out of the hideout, Orika glanced around for a time before she motioned for her subordinates to follow her. They were miles outside of Konoha, but until they had reached the land of rice fields, she knew that they weren't truly safe just yet. As they hurried along to the north, towards the valley of the end and beyond even that, Orika glanced at Yugao worriedly. She was starting to slow down, and the Sannin knew immediately what was wrong. So, pausing for a moment, she moved over to Yugao and lifted her onto her back. Just hold on tight, Yugao. We'll get you home and get Kiriko to heal you, I promise. Just hold on for a while longer. Isumi scowled and shook his head. I think he has other plans, Orika-sama. Orika blinked in confusion for a time before she looked ahead of them. Sure enough, standing in their way, was Jiraiya of the Sannin. She knew it had been upwards of an hour, perhaps longer than that, since their escape from Konohagakure. Glaring at her once teammate, she said, Jiraiya. Please move. I need to get Yugao some help. Jiraiya scowled angrily at Orika and said, she is a traitor and will die as such. Before we get on with it, I want you to answer something for me, Orika. What could you possibly want now, Jiraiya? You know I'm not some kind of horrible person. I'm sure you realize that Danzo was a damn scumbag. You have to know he was lying through his damn teeth when I was jazzed out. I was a loyal Kunoichi of Konohagakure before that day. Orika said, desperate to get Yugao back home. Why did you decide to invade Konoha? Why did you trick Tsunade into helping you? And why did you kill Hiruzen? What is wrong with you? Jiraiya exclaimed angrily. Orika's eyes widened and she said, Jiraiya, nobody was supposed to die. The invasion was simply meant to be utilized as a distraction, so nobody would catch on to the fact that I was going after Danzo. As for Tsunade, I didn't trick them into helping me. The Wind Daimyo is outsourcing all missions to Konoha. Once again, that bullshit is thanks to Danzo Shimura. And I didn't kill Hiruzen. I killed Rasa for daring to kill his own daughter and for the rest of his crimes. Then A decided to take advantage of the distraction to attack Sensei. I had left a clone to watch over everything in the arena while I took care of Danzo. My clone tried to help stop the Raikage, but I don't know what happened after my clone dispelled. Is it safe to assume that Sensei died from his injuries? Because I never touched him. I'll be completely honest with you here, Jiraiya. Despite wanting to kill him myself, I promised someone that I'd train them until they could get their revenge on Hiruzen. I can't do that if I killed him myself. The white-haired man frowned at her, but nodded his head in understanding. Based on what I'm seeing, is it safe to assume that you are behind the disappearance of Naruto Uzumaki and Sakura Haruno? And did you have anything to do with Hinata Hyuga's sudden disappearance? Orika nodded and said, Naruto-kun deserves far better than the treatment he was given in Konoha. He was suffering there, Jiraiya. You had a duty to look after him as his godfather, and you neglected him. Jiraiya, I love Naruto-kun. I helped him and his girlfriends to escape so that they could be happy back home with my people and me. Before Orika could say any more, Jiraiya held up his hand, stopping her. I believe you, Orika. I really do. However, a lot of good people were killed on both sides. Even if you had noble intentions and didn't truly mean any harm, you cannot change the fact that a lot of people died. Orika, Konoha will declare war on Kumagakure for their part in Sensei's death. Then there's Tsunagakure and their betrayal. Because you got them involved, they can no longer be called our allies and will suffer the consequences. Finally, there's your village of Atagakure. Once we're done with Kumo and Tsunade, we'll be taking the fight to you. In your quest for vengeance, you've ruined so many lives, Orika. Are you prepared to face the consequences of your actions? Orika flinched and found it incredibly hard to look at her old teammate. Truthfully. All I could think about was getting Naruto to safety, to somewhere he'd be loved. Sasuke was never supposed to die. Sensei was never supposed to die. The only one that needed to die was that scumbag Danzo. If you want to blame anyone for Tsunade's betrayal, blame him. He's the one that manipulated the Wind Daimyo into doing what he's done. If you act fast and smartly, you can probably fix everything and still keep Tsunade as an ally. However. Jiraiya sighed aggravatedly before saying, Gaia is completely unstable. I'll have to take a look at her seal and see if I can fix it somehow. However, seeing as how you killed the Kazekage, or rather, your clone did, they aren't likely to remain an ally of yours either. If we are unable to mend the relationship between our villages, Tsunade is likely to be invaded by a Wagakure. If they win, they'll be able to advance on Konoha from 2 fronts. So, I'm going to make you an offer. If you refuse, then we'll come after your village and take from you what you took from us. In due time, of course. We can't target you and your village until after we've dealt with the immediate problems. Just know that your days will be numbered and we'll be taking our Jinchuriki back, whether you and he like it or not. After all, despite the fact he's my godson, he is a weapon to be used by the village as we see fit. Right now, consider him on loan until we're ready to take him back. Orika glared hatefully into Jiraiya's eyes, but didn't say anything just yet. Instead, she listened as Jiraiya continued to speak. Our first target will be Kumagakure. For killing our leader, they will be destroyed, as they deserve. The offer I'm willing to make you is this. Join us as an ally and help us to protect both our villages. If you do, I'll step aside and let you 3 pass. If you refuse, I will take Yugao Yuzuki from you by force and take her back to stand trial for her traitorous actions. Well, regardless of the outcome, she'll be put to death either way. As for your friend there, Misumi Tsurugi, he will be dealt with as well. However, you, on the other hand, will be captured and forced to work for us whether you like it or not. After all, we have ways to make you cooperate. I'm sure a person as smart as you can understand. The Snake Sannin's eyes widened in horror before she exclaimed, you bastard. You'd force Naruto into that kind of life, why? How could you be so evil, so cruel? I can't believe you, Jiraiya. He is your godson, Jiraiya. Minato and Kushina trusted you to look after their son, and you'd spit on their wishes like that. Jiraiya smirked sinisterly at Orika and said, I never asked to be made Naruto's godfather. Who in their right mind would want to look after some snot-nosed brat? Certainly not me. I have other priorities that don't involve raising a child, Orika. You know me well enough by now to know what I crave. I don't give a shit about Naruto, Orika. Not like you do. Not like Tsunade would. However, I recognize his potential. He'd make for an excellent weapon, once trained properly, of course. Just slap a slave seal on him and he'd never be able to resist. And, if he becomes too unruly, we can always breed more Uzumakis using his seed and willing females. I'm sure one of his children would make for a fine vessel. Wouldn't you agree? Orika began to snarl as she glared hatefully into Jiraiya's eyes. However, before she could utter a word, Misumi stepped up beside her and whispered, I know I don't stand a chance, Orika-sama, but I'll delay him as long as I can. You need to get Yugao to Itagakure as quickly as possible. She'll die if she doesn't get the help she needs. The Snake Sannin shook her head and said, it wouldn't work. He can utilize the shadow clone technique to render that plan asunder. No, the only hope we have is. What is your answer, Orika? The longer you keep me waiting, the lower the chances of Yugao's survival. Tick-tock, Orika. Tick-tock. Jiraiya taunted. The answer is no, jackass. A female's voice could be heard moments before Jiraiya was smashed into the ground by a trio of rather large creatures. Orika-sama, get going. We'll hold him here as long as we can. Without even needing to look, Orika knew exactly who had come to her rescue. It was the members of the Sound Four and she couldn't have been more grateful for their good timing. Nodding to them once, Orika looked at Misumi and said, help them. Ensure that Jiraiya doesn't follow and then get the hell out of here. Rendezvous back home. Move. Misumi watched as Orika zipped past Jiraiya, moving as fast as she could with Yugao on her back. When the Toad Sage began to rise, Misumi contorted his body and shot forward, wrapping himself around Jiraiya's body and pinning his arms and hands to his sides. I'm not letting you go, Jiraiya. Even if I die here, I won't let any harm befall Orika-sama. Misumi. You sure about this? The man known as Jirobo asked as he prepared to use one of his unique ninjutsu. If I do this. Misumi didn't even bother to look at any members of the Sound Four. Just do it, Jirobo. Even if I die, you need to do it. We absolutely cannot let this fasshole go after Orika-sama. Jirobo scowled but did just as instructed. Slamming his hands to the ground, Jirobo activated his technique and watched as a dome of earth trapped Jiraiya and Misumi inside. This wasn't all, however. No, the moment they were trapped inside, Jirobo had begun siphoning their chakra and using that to power his technique. It wouldn't take too long for Misumi to perish once all of his chakra was gone. Jiraiya, on the other hand, had far more chakra available to him and would therefore require more of his concentration. Be safe, Orika-sama. The end. So how was this part? I hope you like it. And if you like it, share this part with your friends and like the video too. And don't forget to subscribe our channel for daily awesome fanfiction. Okay, it's time for me to go. Bye bye.